Don't you find it annoying when you try to give your best advice to your friends and loved ones and then just notice them do the same thing they'd have done if you hadn't talked to them, as if your advice was fucking worthless and your words didn't mean shit? Even when you have experience with similar problems, even when you have researched or studied this subject, even when you know they're about to make a mistake, they still fucking don't listen. And on top of that, sometimes they even get angry at you because you don't agree with them. I know you've probably been in a situation like this multiple times. We've all have been. When it feels so obvious that you are right and they are wrong, and yet your arguments are so perfect and yet they just don't fucking listen. There's just no way you can get them to see reason. And maybe you'll get a shallow "I agree" that's as empty as it is meaningless. Let's face it, sometimes they're just given out of courtesy, but people don't really agree with you. It seems that the harder you try, the less likely sometimes that people will actually listen to what you say and do what you tell them they should do. Why? How come people don't listen to your arguments? You see, the truth is that this is something that many people experience because most people, when it comes to trying to convince other people to do stuff, they just have the wrong approach. And instead of actually making people more likely to do what you want them to do, you're actually making them less likely, and your arguments are actually counterproductive to you actually convincing other people. And it's a real difficult thing to solve because it's human nature to actually use the bad persuasion tactics that I'm about to show you. You see, most people make the mistake of trying to persuade people as if they were in a high school debate. They're using arguments and they're trying to break down other people's arguments to make them see that their arguments are better so that people adopt their point of view. What most people don't realize is that when you're trying to argue with people, instead of making them want to adhere to your arguments, it instead puts them immediately on the defensive and try to find reasons why their arguments are right. Because, let's face it, no one wants to be wrong. So their brain will try extra hard to justify why their position is right. And so you will make them think about reasons why what they're thinking about, what they're about to do, is the right thing to do, which means that they're more likely to convince themselves that their bad decision is actually the good decision because their brain doesn't want to be wrong. No one likes to be wrong. If you can't convince people by using conventional arguments, how do you actually get them to see your side of things and agree with what you want them to agree? It's actually quite simple, but not necessarily easy to do. You see, instead of trying to convince people to get to the conclusion you want them to make by adopting your reasons to do it, you need to instead make sure that people get to the same conclusions you want them to make, but not for your reasons, but rather for their own reasons. For example, let's say you're in a basketball team with one of your friends. Your friend has poor cardio, which means that he performs poorly on the basketball field. This leads him to have poor performance, which in turn means that he will have a lower self-esteem. You could try to convince him to go to the gym to improve his cardio, which will improve his performance on the field, which will in turn give him better self-confidence. However, if you were trying to convince him with these arguments, you'd be most likely to fail. Maybe your friend just doesn't care about basketball as much as you do, and maybe he doesn't even realize or believe in the fact that poor performance actually lowers his self-esteem. So if you try to convince him with these arguments, it's going to be worthless because he either doesn't believe in it or doesn't care as much as you do. However, if you really talk to him and try to dig into what's in his mind, you might realize that he is sad to have very little success in his dating life. And that he feels that the reason why he's having little success is because he doesn't like the way he looks. And he'd like to look a lot better. Knowing that, you could try to convince him to go to the gym by telling him and making him realize that if he went to the gym, that would make him more attractive in the process. He'd become better looking, and that this way he'd have the confidence to go talk to girls more and maybe have more success in his dating life. By using this approach and using these arguments, which are his worries, not yours, you are much likelier to make him want to go to the gym. And even if he doesn't go to the gym because of your arguments, going to the gym will also improve his cardio, his performance in basketball, and his self-esteem as a result. Even though he decided to go for totally different reasons than you wanted, the reason why you wanted him to go to the gym in the first place. Here's the important lesson I want you to realize here. You will improve the lives of your loved ones by convincing them to adopt good habits, even if they don't adopt them for the reasons or the benefits that you want them to adopt these habits for. Now, in his amazing course called Persuasion Masterclass, Brandon Hakim teaches you that arguments are worthless and why. And on top of that, he gives you the 3 most effective ways you can get people to see your side of things and get to the conclusions you want them to make. These 3 approaches are the following. Number 1, you tell them stories. Now, stories about people who have succeeded in similar situations by using a method with which you want them to use is likely to motivate them to use such methods. On the opposite side of the spectrum, if you tell them a story about someone who's failed by doing something that is very similar to what they are about to do and what they want to do, this will actually dissuade them and increase the likelihood that they come to the conclusion that their idea was bad without being on the defensive and without feeling that you are hurting their brain's ability to come up with good answers, because it's not you who's telling them that they're making a bad decision. It's just a story you've heard and you're just giving it to them to help them make a good decision. You're not attacking their arguments, you're just giving them a story. It's much lighter and it has the same, it has a very positive effect. The second thing you could do is using allegories to illustrate your point. Now, third thing would be to use questions, to ask the right questions at the right time that will make them come up to the conclusions you want them to make. We've never been taught in schools what kinds of questions we need to ask. We've never been taught when to ask specific questions, which is a real shame because questions could easily become the most important tool in your social skill set, one of the most impactful ones. Mastering questions is almost like a real social superpower. You see, questions can be used to persuade people, get them to reveal any kind of information. Think about the expert FBI agents who managed to get criminals to reveal all sorts of information that will incriminate them and get them to go to prison, still give it almost freely to these investigators. Questions can also get you to control the conversation and make people like you more and see you in a much better light. In fact, Questions are so powerful that Brandon Hakim, the creator of the aforementioned Persuasion Masterclass, has also created a whole other course that is completely aimed at teaching you how to ask better questions and become a better master communicator. It's called Communication Mastery. Now, I will not explain in detail all there is to the art of asking questions because this video is already a long video and it would be way too long. So instead of that, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how to ask the right questions and what are the basics of the art of asking questions. To help me do that, I will start by giving you a small list of great examples of questions taken directly from Brandon's course. Number 1, if the situation was flipped around, how would you like to be treated? Now, this is an amazing question when someone comes to you and asks for advice on how to deal with another person when they have a problem with another person. If you feel they're going to ask too brashly and they're going to be too aggressive and might burn bridges in their approach, by asking this question, this will lead them to be more empathetic towards this other person and will increase the likelihood that they will be more kind and more docile with that individual. Number 2, how will this further your mission and goal? If you feel that the person you're talking to is forgetting about their dreams, they're completely off the track, they're doing shit, they're basically wasting their life on shit that doesn't matter, you can ask them this. If they don't have a goal, they will start thinking about, what's my goal? What should I do with my life? And if they do have one, they will be stuck and they will either realize that what they're doing isn't really helping their goal, and this will lead them to reconsider their actions. Number 3, is this the best you can do? That's a great question to ask when you feel that people are either settling for mediocrity, accepting things that are worth less than what they should accept or strive for. This is a great question when you want people to realize that they are worth more than they're asking for, or when you want them to realize that they are not performing as much as they should and therefore they are not bringing enough results to their business, to their life, as they could be and probably should be. As you see, all these questions are incredibly circumstantial and incredibly specific. By asking questions that are circumstantial and specific, you really force people to think about answers that are related to what you want them to think about. If you're asking someone, how was your day? What do you think they're going to think about? They're going to think about their day. If you ask someone about, is this the best you could do? What do you think they're going to ask themselves about in their brain? They're going to think about, well, no, actually, I could have done that better. I could have done that better. So really, that by using the right questions, you really direct people's brains in the direction that you want them to take so that it increases the likelihood that they come to the conclusion you want them to make. On the other side of the coin, you could ask the way overrated and way overpopular question, why do you want to do that? If you ask why do you want to do that to someone, what do you think they're going to think about? It's the exact same thing as asking them to come up with reasons why what they're doing is good. Why do you want to do that? Well, why do I want to do that? Oh yeah, well, this because it could help me in this way, because it could help me in that way. Instead of making them think about reasons not to do it, you're making them think about reasons to fucking do it. You're increasing the likelihood that they keep going in their downslope instead of making them get further fucking away from it. Don't ask people why they want to do something unless you want to increase the likelihood that they do it, not if you want to decrease the likelihood that they fall in their fucking hole in the ground and make mistakes. So questions are incredibly powerful. Before you ask questions, always make sure that what you're going to make people think about is exactly the kind of thing that you want them to think about, not the things that you don't want them to fucking think about. That's kind of a basic overview on how to ask questions. If you want to know more about how to ask the right questions and what kind of questions you should ask and at what time you should ask your questions, I highly recommend you check out Brandon Hakim's course, Persuasion Masterclass. It's an amazing course. In this course, Brandon will give you a solid foundation and good set of social skills to become more persuasive. And on top of that, he'll give you a framework and a step-by-step guide on what you need to do to persuade people. It's simple, easy to understand, and brutally effective. Certainly one of my favorite courses on Udemy. If you are interested, there's a link in the description. I highly recommend you check it out. This is the kind of course that will really change your life in your workspace, in your friend circle, and even in your dating life. So go ahead and click that link down below to check it out. You'll be taken to this page. You'll see a video preview on the top right, which you can watch to see if the course's content interests you and to make sure that the instructor's way of teaching works with you. If you do decide to give it a shot, just click on the red button under the video preview to start your buying process, create your account, and set up your payment info like any other site, and then you'll get a lifetime access to the course. It's really one of the best courses on Udemy. So yeah, it's certainly at least worth checking out, especially if it's on sale. I mean, if you can get this for $15 or less, it's incredibly worth the money. So that's it for today. I hope you found this video helpful. This channel covers everything related to online learning. We also review courses on online marketing, sales, and communication skills. If this is something that could interest you, I highly recommend you subscribe and stay tuned for more content like this coming soon to your inbox. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the like button. With that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.